everyone, welcome to Nexxgen AI Academy. So in the last lecture, we studied about how LLMs are actually works. So from today onwards, since we know the basics idea about the LLMs now let's deploy it. Let's create a Gen AI application using LangChain. So today's lecture will predominantly be focused on how one framework can be used to build these Gen AI applications, right? And LangChain is one of the finest framework to do it, right? So I'll take you a very simple example and make you understand what LangChain actually is, right? So let's say somebody has created a Gen AI application, right? So what this Gen AI application works, so here they have used an LLM, and the work of this LLM is to convert a text to code, right? Let's say in Python, right? So what this application does is, when a user put a text in the large language model, it generates the code in Python, right? Let's say I tell that write a code to add two numbers, right? So the output would be a Python code adding two numbers, right? Maybe a function or maybe a class and then a function, right? So user putting a text, right? And that text is converting to code in Python, right? So what sort of tools, techniques, technology requires to build such Gen AI application, right? You might be needing a UI template, right? UI template where a user can come and put this text, right? Template, right? You might be needing a vector database, right? Vector DB or embedding DB, right? Embedding database to store such text into vector form, because we know that LLMs cannot understand words, right? They cannot understand sentences, but they can understand the numerical vectors, right? So we definitely need a space where we can store these database and use it for pre-processing, right? We might be needing some open source LLMs, right? Large language models like OpenAI, Gemini, etc., right? If we are creating our own LLM, it's well and good. If we are using any open source LLM, it's also can work fine, right? We might be needing a tool to deploy this application, right? Tool to deploy, right? We also needing the tool to evaluation and tracking of these models, right? Now since you build the Gen AI application, now you want the performance evaluation of it, right? At the same time, you might be needing a tracking dashboarding tool where you can track whether your model or your application is working fine or not, right? So predominantly there can be other things as well which you might be needing to build such Gen AI application, right? But these are the predominant tools or techniques which you will be needing, right? Or tools, right? So here we know that these all tools are very important to build a Gen AI application, right? So LangChain is what? LangChain is providing all the tools and techniques, right, in a single space, right? So what LangChain actually is, so LangChain is an open source framework which allow us to build Gen AI application end to end, right? End to end, right? Now let's take an example. If we don't have a framework like LangChain, right? So I might be creating my own template using some different tools, techniques, right? I might be putting a lot of money on setting up my own vector databases, right? I might be getting APIs from maybe OpenAI or Gemini from other resources, right? I might be using AWS, GCS, any other deployment space where I can deploy these LLMs, right? I might also be needing to set up some Grafana dashboarding or any other dashboarding to evaluate or tracking these models, right? Now all the resources are not integrated to each other, so there will be a lot of efforts will be going to integrating these tools and techniques to each other, so that my entire ecosystem, I can evaluate the entire ecosystem and I got to know whether the performance of this Gen AI application is up to the mark or not, right? So I need a lot of integrations from the different tools and techniques, right? But using LangChain, I can get all the tools and techniques in one place, which is nothing but the LangChain framework, right? Correct? So this is very helpful here to understand that using LangChain, you can do a whole lot of things, from building a basic application, use a LangChain, use large language models, and build your own Gen AI applications, right? So this is very important to understand that this is an open source framework which allows you to build Gen AI application from end to end, right? Now, since this is an ecosystem, right? It's not like a programming language, right? It's an ecosystem. So we also need to understand what are the key parts of this LangChain ecosystem, right? So in the next slide, we will be studying about the entire ecosystem of the LangChain. Yeah. So here you can see there are different parts of the LangChain ecosystem, right? First, you will be seeing Langsmith, right? So let's talk about Langsmith, right? What Langsmith is? Langsmith is a tool which allows you to evaluate your model, right? Evaluation of the model, evaluation of the model or LLM, right? It also allows you to debug, right? How you can debug? So there will be some dashboarding happens, right? So for your request per second, you might be seeing at some point in time your RPS went down to 0, right? So here what happened can be tracked, right, via this dashboarding tool, right? So it's also allow us to debug, evaluation, right, and also monitoring via dashboarding, right? Dashboarding, right? So it's one of the key part of LangChain, which is called Langsmith, where you can evaluate your model, debug your model, right, monitor your models and do a whole lot of things, right? Second is a LangServe. What LangServe actually is, it's helping your model to deploy, right? We can use this as a space to deploy our Gen AI application, right? Third is your LangChain, right? LangChain. So here this is the framework. At the same time, LangChain you can use to build your AI agents, right? We will be studying AI agents in detail, but here we are just talking about the key components of the LangChain ecosystem, right? Then also we have LangChain community, right? What LangChain community is? LangChain community. LangChain community allows us to use pre-trained LLMs, right? The models, prompts, etc., right? Here the models can be open sourced, or some models might be paid version as well, right? So here we need to also take this into account, that whether which LLMs we want to use, right? Which LLM will be suitable for my use case, right? And also LangChain core allows us expressing languages and streaming as well, right? It's not very important, but to understand the key component is very important, right? So first Langsmith, which is an evaluation or monitoring tool. Then LangServe is your deployment tool. Also using LangChain you can build your AI agents. Then LangChain community allows us to use pre-trained models, pre-trained services, right? At the same time, AI agenting tooling as well. At the same time, you can use LangChain core, right? So this is for it today. I hope you are able to understand what LangChain actually is and what are the key components of the entire LangChain ecosystem. So we'll be talking a lot of things about LangChain, and we'll start set up our environment to code in LangChain from the next lecture onwards, right? So hope this helps. Thank you. Have a good day.